three. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you today. We're going to get things moving today. Whew. Number 45 will come number 47. What do you think of that? And what about mass deportations? And what about the Democratic Party? They are about to have new leadership, or will they just have new faces in high places? There's lots to talk about. Yeah, I mean, we're just hoping that there will be some real changes, some self reflection, so that we can move ahead, right? And what about the TikTok ban? I mean, there has been so much. I was just talking with Ari Paul about that, and the implications of that are just incredible. But we've got this inauguration, and many of us are feeling some kind of way. And I tell you what, the way that you ought to feel is that you ought to want to fight. In fact, my brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, said, I am going to the inauguration because I want to look Donald Trump in the eye, President Donald Trump, and let him know that I am going to fight him. Great things happen in moments like these, everybody. Great things. Great things. Sometimes when we think we have a friend in the office, we relax and we don't fight. We don't move. Even though we need to fight all the time, we have to be vigilant. Because when your friends win an office, the people who did not support them, well, they represent them too. So we've got to go open our politics, everybody, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Americans are feeling, rightly, that their children will not do as well as they do. Please, they can't even get their children out the house because it's too expensive. Mm-hmm. A dozen eggs will cost you $8 at Walgreens. University of Chicago, the University of Chicago for an undergraduate is $100,000 a year. NYU is $100,000 a year. What American can really send their children there? Well, when you go onto these campuses, you see it's a global oligarchy. Mm-hmm. And that's not what America is about. So it's a lot that we need to unpack. There's a lot that we need to unpack. In this moment, you ought to feel very hopeful about all of the changes that we can make if we come together. That's the key. Coalition politics has never been more important than ever. It's just more important than ever. Just so important. You cannot make it by yourself. We all need each other. We have to come together. And we have to have some honest conversations about how we're feeling, about our histories, so that we can not get over it, but work through it and become bigger people as a result. Don't you think it's time that we all grew up? I think so. Shalom to you, Robert. Sending you so much love, Andre. Everybody like and share, like and share, like and share, like and share. Let's get to it. I am on Blue Sky, and I got there myself, which is why I have the strange picture where my eyes are half closed. I had to take that selfie, put it up there real fast. But you know what, everybody? Here I am with my eyes wide open. SantitaJackson.bsky.social. And then I'm on X at SantitaJ. And the Santita Jackson and Friends page, please become my friend on Santita Jackson and Friends, not on Santita Jackson. Because they kick you all off. Oh, please, 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 Santita Jackson and Friends. So let's get to it. And go to the Santita Jackson show, if you will, and watch the show. Stream there and like and share, like and share, like and share. Well, we've got the Trump inauguration. It is upon us. And I have got a wonderful, wonderful group of women together. And you know what? It seems like we're doing this every Sunday afternoon now. It's becoming our own coffee clutch. I love it. And it's contentious and all of that, but I love it. Because we hug it out at the end. Leslie Williams, Jewish Voice for Peace. It's a joy to be with you.
Joy to be.
Ariel Gold Fellowship of Reconciliation. Yeah, girl. Happy birthday, Ariel. Hey, everybody. Send her love. Yay. Hello, everybody. Oh, snap, whatever. Dr. Alia Amar, social justice advocate and brilliant scientist. And Livonia Perryman, veteran award-winning journalist. television, radio, in front of the camera, behind the camera, and one of the veterans of the Jackson campaigns of 84 and 88. And she has also been a Democratic operative, a top Democratic operative for 40 years. I know you can't tell, you know. And then, of course, attorney Anastasia Sanat, brilliant lawyer. Indeed, we're going to have to ask her about immigration because that is one of her specialties. She's the former president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. Brilliant, 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 and my soror. I love it. Everybody, let's talk. Let's talk. First of all, let's look at the Trump inauguration. He just had a big rally. I've just watched it on television, and a lot of people. Snoop Dogg performed for him last night. Nelly performed for him. The Village People. Well, you know, everybody's entitled to be with whomever they choose to be. I appreciate that, even if I disagree, and I do. But that having been said, they have the right to be there. Leslie, what do you make of this moment? Because a lot of people are despairing, and I don't think that we should be despairing now. I think that we should be acting. You know, this is the MLK holiday, and the government has designated this as a day of service. And I said, that kind of misses the mark, because Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was first a minister who answered a high calling from God to be of service. He was a servant. He was that. He was a man of action, which is what distinguished him from many ministers. He was a man of action. Jesus was a man of action, and he was in that tradition. So why don't we start with Martin Luther King and how he looked at this moment, right?
And Jesus was turning over the tables in the temple, rejecting hypocrisy and a form of exploitive capitalism that he saw in his own time. I think it's really funny that you mentioned Snoop Dogg, who was, you know, the bad boy, the guy who was swearing and taking on the establishment. It seems like Snoop Dogg has become Snoop the lapdog in recent years. But, you know, talking about the inauguration and feeling hopeful, yes, it has. And the whole thing about King's message being softened and made acceptable to middle white America by saying that it should just be a day of service, that has not only happened under the Republicans. I mean, that has been a misinterpretation of King that we've seen for decades. That in schools, that we see in libraries, this idea that it's just service, it's not overturning a fundamentally unjust capitalist society. And if people read the radical King, if they listen to the speeches he was giving towards the end of his life, when he was not so popular with middle America, they would see that he was far more about service. He was about overturning structures of injustice. And but the other thing that he was about was true unity, not just in the sense that we all get together with different rainbow colored t-shirts and sing together, but that my issues are your issues, that the issues of African Americans are the issues of Latinos who are being threatened with deportation, that the issues of Palestinians are the issues of working people, are the issues of people in the labor movement. And that we can't allow this Trumpian, really McCarthy-like regime to divide us. And we already are seeing attempts to do that. So for example, I was just listening to a webinar with Mark Lamont Hill, African-American journalist who lost his job because of his speaking out about Palestine. And he was talking about how there's an effort to make it seem as though African-Americans should not be supporting Palestine or supporting Palestinians because they're racist, which is fundamentally not true. And in fact, the racism that we see in Israel, the racism that is so on display with this relentless genocidal bombing of the Palestinian people, that is evidence of white supremacy. That is evidence of people saying that it's perfectly okay to murder thousands and thousands of people because they're Palestinian. And what we see in Project 25 and what we see in Project Esther, the two projects from the Heritage Foundation, they're coming for all marginalized people. They're coming for
Yes, they are.
They're coming for the LGBTQ community. They are coming for Palestinians and Muslims and Arabs. They're coming for African Americans. They're coming for working people. They're opposed to environmental changes to prevent climate change. Both of those projects basically uplift the needs and the interests of a very narrow slice of extremely wealthy, pro-business, very conservative America. They want to silence critical race theory and anti-colonialist education in schools and on colleges. They want to silence people. They want to accuse people of being terrorist sympathizers if they are standing up against these policies. So the way that we survive the next 4 years, and really the way we survive, period, as a people and as a species, is by working together, by all of us supporting vulnerable people and all of us supporting each other's issues.
Ariel Gold.
Leslie, I loved what you had to say. I just loved and agreed with it so much. So I had the pleasure this morning of listening to Reverend Mark Thompson, also from the Jackson campaign. He was the guest preacher at Riverside Church in commemoration of Martin Luther King's speech there. And it's been just sticking with me what he spoke about. You know, he talked about this was the speech beyond Vietnam where he became unpopular, where they said, no, you can't do that. Stay in your lane. You've done well with civil rights. Just stay there. And he was like, no, I gotta go. And that was the beginning of his execution. Mm-hmm. And the title of Reverend Mark's sermon that I've been just thinking on was, what is your Riverside Church? Like, what is your moment where you step outside of that, right? Where you step outside of that comfort, that success, that acceptability, and we're willing to go beyond to make this better world. And I've been thinking as well, you know, Santita, you were saying like how appalled and just, you know, shocked and freaked out folks are about Trump's inauguration. And that's how I felt the first time. That's how I felt with the first Trump presidency. But I gotta say, like now, this time, right now, what I feel is like, this is America. This is us. And I have to recognize that I am part of that us. And that if I try to be like, no, this isn't me, this is so appalling, and it's appalling, then I'm going to miss, you know, how we come together as community, because these are my fellow citizens and we elected him. And this is who we are. So where do we go from here? What does that look like? And, you know, we've got strange bedfellows and strange moments. And I know it was timed this way, but Trump gets inaugurated tomorrow and the ceasefire in Gaza started today. And I don't actually call it a ceasefire. It's a temporary pause. Yeah. All right. But we'll take a temporary pause. Mm-hmm. And we're, you know, and so we've gotten to see like 3 beautiful, innocent young women who were civilians who were taken hostage on October 7th. One of them is missing a bunch of fingers. They were all emaciated and reunited with their loved ones, and how wonderful that is. And my friend Yafa Jarrar, her mother is being released right now.
Praise God.
Being a Palestinian political prisoner. She's been, and this Khalida Jarrar, who is a feminist leader in Palestine and part of the Palestinian parliament, and she has spent most of her adult life in and out of prison, and this last round since 2023 were some of the most brutal, torturous conditions. And so, you know, we have this horrible darkness, right, that Trump is bringing upon us, and yet what Biden couldn't give us at the moment of Trump's inauguration, we also have some light coming in. And how do we work with that? How do we take that and work with it without being naive to think that that means like Trump is going to be good for the Palestinian cause? Because he is not going to be good for the Palestinian cause. But how do we plan out our work within that context? And how do we fear the incoming administration and celebrate the liberation, the freedom that we saw today?
Well, how do we do that? I mean, you alluded to Dr. King's book. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? I think of Riverside Church. He was killed a year to the day to the minute that he stepped into the pulpit. When he finished his sermon, Reverend Dr. White Walker walked up to him and he said, "Martin, you know you've just sounded your death warrant." He said, "I know." And the harassment just amped up. But it was the worst thing. First of all, the Bible tells you to cry at birth and rejoice at death. He had done his work and he was murdered by all of us. There were too many churches, black churches, he could not get into the pulpit of. I know my parents went to work for him when he was becoming his most unpopular, the last 3 years of his life. And yet, they don't regret a thing. Dr. King didn't regret a thing. So, the materialism, which is even our grab at earthly life, is something that we have to release. Because on principle, there's some things that we have to be willing to give up.
Yes.
Because what we're doing, I mean, my life, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not frightened by anything. What fills me with dread is to see one more child in Palestine or Haiti or the Congo or any place in the world killed, or the adults that they become. And the thing is, as Americans, we have the power to change things because we're still, even though we are in the twilight, we're still the most powerful force on earth. Even if it's soft power, we have that. And Americans, therefore, are the most powerful people on earth. We can do this. We can make some changes, Dr. Amar.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And we must. I felt like I could turn my video off for a moment listening to Leslie, because you hit so many of the points. And Ariel, you brought home on Palestine and what's been happening in Palestine and in Israel. I think instead of sort of reiterating some of those points from the same perspective, what I want to focus on is the need for us to all come together in action. I had the great pleasure of, and I know you talked to her many, many times, but I had the great pleasure of talking with Mrs. Coretta Scott King many years ago at Loyola. And my classmate and I asked her, how would you want us to honor Dr. King's day? You fought for this so hard. How would you want us to honor it? And she said, work. She said, at the end of his life, Dr. King was fighting for our access to work and to work equitably. And that now we needed to be present. She said, don't make it a day where you're sitting at home. She did add that, if you're not working, try to do service, but also get involved. Register people to vote or join an organization that you've been thinking about, but maybe you haven't. And I feel as though on this particular MLK Day, as it coincides with the inauguration, that advice about getting involved and taking thought into action is more important than ever. Because how many people sit back and, all of us have done it at some point where we're sort of armchair warriors or we're Facebook warriors. And yeah, it takes a bit of risk to share your voice and push action, but nothing ever changes. Think of how many people would have still been in the fields were it not for Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and everyone who participated in the Underground Railroad. Think of the meaning of the press during that time, the Black press during that time, which was underground and directed towards elevating and humanizing people who had been dehumanized. Move forward through time. See again, Dr. King as he begins to push and push forward. Move it forward and think of W.E.B. Du Bois, think of Booker T. Washington, think of whomever you need to in these moments to remind yourself that, as I told my children as I raised them, we have not yet earned the right to fail. We have not yet earned the right to even be tired, because our rights were bought in blood. And we must try to hold on to them and expand them. And hopefully that doesn't take blood. Hopefully it just means that we make calls to our representatives, that we join the organizations who need our energy, our time, and our money, and we start putting boots to the ground, because this is not going to be your typical 4-year journey. If you're feeling comfortable in this moment, take a deep breath, enjoy it, and maybe take a picture, because there are people stepping in tomorrow with the first day intent of chipping away everything that is the foundation of your enjoyment in this country. If you are not part of this very, very, very small group of people that they actually recognize as human and deserving of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But for all the rest of us, I don't care. I don't care. And I'll join Ariel and Leslie in this. If you are a poor person, then your concerns must be the concerns of everyone. If you are a person who is, part of the LGBTQ community, if I may have a religious value that speaks differently about that, but I recognize in my civic value that your right to live your life in this country is the same right that my right to live my life in this country is based on. And when they undercut you, they undercut me. We need to recognize that our brothers and sisters who are living in fear tonight and worried about whether or not they can send their children to school on Monday because of their immigration status are no different from every single one of us who enjoys citizenship in this country under birthright citizenship. And that whatever is being done to one of us is being done to another. So stand together, fight together, join. Don't sit at your keyboard. Get up, go out, ask. Go to Rainbow Push. Ask how you can volunteer. Show up. Show up at Jewish Voices for Peace. Show up at the Muslim Coalition. Show up at whatever your faith or civil liberties organization is, but show up, because we are right now at the time when nobody can afford to sit home anymore, and we've got to do it together. So that would be my main emphasis.
Absolutely. Livonia, Perryman. Because the fact is, Dr. Morrow and Leslie Williams and Ariel Gold were always there. We just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
The price of liberty is our eternal vigilance.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You're absolutely correct. When all of my good sisters have been speaking, been taking that in, and it's just I have to record it so I won't forget it. But I'm a history buff, and I was thinking that we have the pain that people felt. Part of our America felt. Part of our America, and you're right, Ariel. I separated myself from that group of people who won, Trump's people. And I realized, welcome to America, Santita, welcome to the whole of America. The people spoke. Just think about that. The people spoke. Wasn't my fault, but they spoke on my behalf. They said, this is what we're going to have for the next 4 years. Then I thought about from pain to power. So we can take that depression, that despair, and really turn it into action, as you said, Ariel. But I also thought about, we've been here globally before. I thought about the diary of Anne Frank and the story that she told and the conditions they lived under as Jewish people, that they were in hiding. I felt like for a while after the election, I had to go in hiding. I felt like I needed to duck because I knew that I was being targeted as a Black woman, as a Black person. And guess what? Newsflash. This wasn't something they did not report. This has been reported for years. This has been the strategy. So I'm saying, surely I feel I'm exhaling now and waiting for what's happening tomorrow. I think this is just my sidebar. When they said that they were going inside, surely it's about being cold, but I'm sure that it's about being protective of Trump. That the fervor of the division in America is so strong that the CIA and anyone else is saying we need to protect the next leader of the free world. That's real. I think it's deeper than just being 5 below zero.
But you know what? I think it would have been that way for Kamala too.
Yes.
Because the country,
yes.
You know, I mean, the studies are showing that we're that divided, Livonia.
Yes.
We're polarized. There are people who are angry and they're violent. And so it's a scary time.
But that's who we are. You know, I mean, I'm not writing it off, and I wasn't interrupting you, Livonia. I was just
right. And then I thought about the diary of Anne Frank. Then I thought about my good friend, Congresswoman Tlaib. Her grandmother physically lives in Gaza. And so they were trying to figure out here, why was she so unnerved? It's her grandmother and family live in the conditions similar to Anne Frank. Hold on. Then let's go back. Then think about, we talk about, roll down the river and roll over. Harriet Tubman in the deep of darkness, that Black men and women and children were being murdered because of the color of their skin. So we've been here before. We've been here. And guess what? It goes back to you, Ariel and Dr. and Leslie and Santita. We've conquered. We've succeeded. We've moved forward. We pressed on. We get together. We got show up and we showed out. Even in the conditions that we're talking about. Anne Frank, Harriet Tubman, Tlaib's grandmother's environment. Here we are talking today that there are some people who have been released. Just imagine. I want our audience to understand. You just shared with me, Ariel, that a woman was being released with little or no fingers. Young lady. The devastation is going on. So it is not just one day, one administration. America has to deal with the demons that are perpetrating as being in a democratic, we love one another country. And we have to look at what part do we play? What part do we play? What level are we going to play? Are we going to do about money or about votes? Or are we going to put boots on the ground? Who are we and how are we going to come together? I'd say that this is not, and I'm still not happy. But I'm going to take that energy and join you guys on whatever we need to do to make a difference.
And we can't. I mean, because I'm not happy, but now it's the time to go to work. I wasn't
Yes.
happy when I couldn't even vote, but I wasn't happy when Reagan won.
Mm-hmm.
He was a
Right.
frightening figure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I had heard of what he had done in California to the Panthers and to the civil rights movement. Reagan was a very frightening figure. He was the Trump of that moment.
Yes.
One of his opening events was in Philadelphia, Mississippi, where they don't have a train station, they don't have a bus station, but they are the burial site, and they're the killing grounds of Goodman, Turner, and Cheney.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, wake up, everybody.
Yeah.
This is, or maybe we've gotten too comfortable.
Yes.
Because I'm like, wait, hold up, wait a minute now. Wait, this is America. And this is what we've been fighting. This ain't new.
Well,
Reagan was bundled up by these billionaires. They gave him a career, Leslie, before I come to you, Attorney Sanat. They gave him a career. They took him out of Hollywood. They made him president of the Screen Actors Guild. He had been a liberal. He married this very conservative woman. He became very conservative. The billionaire said, we can do something with you. They made him a corporate spokesman.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they did with him. And now they've made a model for everybody else who's come behind him, because everybody else except Jimmy Carter has been a celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
And poor little Gerald Ford, who kept falling up and down the stairs. But, that having been said, well, he did. But I mean, I'm like, now is the time to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to say that I loved what Livonia was saying about the children who are afraid to wake up tomorrow because they might be deported, or their parents might be deported. Think of all the children who are waking up afraid, not just the children in Gaza, but children on the west side of Chicago and under-resourced Black neighborhoods who also wake up afraid that they're not going to make it to school. And immigrant children and gay and trans children who wake up afraid that they're going to be bullied or attacked or murdered. There's so many of our children, both here in the United States and around the world, that are afraid, and that we are not doing this work as a society, as a country, to do the things, to build up the infrastructure that would protect those children, to spend our budget not just on $17 billion of military assistance to kill one group of children, which then is being taken away from other children in need.
To kill and maim and traumatize. We have just traumatized an entire generation of people. What will happen to the children of Gaza who have just survived a genocide? What will happen as we hold our breath and wonder, how many hours will this last? How many days will this last? When does the next shoe fall? And I want to add to that, and I don't want to interrupt Attorney Sanat in her time, because, man, brilliant. But I do want to add this. What about us? What about the fact that, I hold my breath when I pass a cop, in my car. I hold my breath. And I don't want that for myself, for my brothers, for my children. One of my children, I got safely out of this country when I left years ago. I lived for 6 years in a place where the police don't pull you over for traffic stops. And they certainly don't kill you at traffic stops. And so it's very hard to come back to my own country and feel that every time I pass a cop, I need to make sure that everything in my car is working. Are my lights on? Did I do this? Did I do that? Are my hands here? What will I do? And then to breathe a sigh of relief, we've got to stop living like that. And the only way we get to that is that we make change.
One more thing I'd like to add to that. You're absolutely correct. But it's not just the police officers or the law enforcement. It is the neighborhoods or the neighbors. Remember, we're talking about America. And you cannot, no longer can you put a Harris, I'm just saying, or Democratic label on your car. Think about it. I'm sure everybody's thought about that, because of the fear that they may break out the windows, or they may yank you out the car. Not police officers. Not police officers. But someone else. That's what we're dealing with.
Honestly, we're doing that to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Democrats and Republicans are doing it.
Yes.
We are at war with each other. I mean, I have seen viciousness everywhere. It has got, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? I mean, because we've had bad actors all over the place.
Mhm.
I was reading something, Attorney Sonata, and this is when, when we look at the dimensions of this. Do you know King Leopold killed 20 million Africans?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we never talk about it, Ari.
Elephants,
Let-
everything.
Livonia, I mean, and then one of the Southeast Asian countries, they honored my father at the British Parliament when he turned 70 a decade ago. And she had just come back from this massacre. They had killed 9 million of her countrymen in 3 months.
Mm.
3 months.
Right.
These things happen routinely. Man's inhumanity to man is just rampant. And all we're doing is expressing it. Can you believe it? We are like running. I mean, we only have like 20 minutes left. And I want to hear from you, Attorney Sonata, because I want to do another go round with all of you. But, I kind of let the conversation go where it goes because I think we're all feeling some kind of way. And as only God would have it, Inauguration Day falls on Dr. King's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Not just this one. When I sang for the Clinton inauguration, when I did the national anthem, profound honor, they said, remember, you're singing this on Dr. King's birthday. And this is the last time that the national anthem will be sung at a presidential inauguration in this century and in this millennium.
Mm.
And I, as a child of the movement, it wasn't me. I said, this is for you, Dr. King. And for you, Cotton Reader, and for you, Amelia Boynton, and for all the nameless, faceless, toothless, no PhD, no D people who made the changes for us. Because they're the ones who did it. I mean, the people who moved out of their comfort zones, Anastasia Sanat,
Mm-hmm.
and they changed our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to, I'm going to have Texas State Senator Gene Wu, whose comments have gone viral. He said, as an Asian American, I've had to tell my brothers and sisters, wait a minute, every advancement we've made has been because of Black people.
Mhm.
And I'm going to get him on. I said, because I want you to talk about this because I am tired of hearing Asians bashed within my community.
Mhm.
I'm like, wait. We got out to California in 1984 at Ariel. The people who were running our campaign was the Asian community.
Mhm.
You saw that. We were like, okay,
Yes.
we'll roll with it. We're happy about it. So there's a lot of growing. We're still in the midst of the growth. But we have to have these kinds of conversations where we're honest. Attorney Sanat.
Thank you for having me today. I'm not sure, but I feel like everyone was here during the same time and space as Martin Luther King Jr. I was not.
Mm-hmm.
I was not born until long after he had passed. 1968, April 4th, 1968 is when he was assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
But his actual birthday, just to clarify, is actually January 15th, 1929. And so his time-space continuum basically matches with my father. My father, an immigrant from Haiti, didn't even step foot into the United States until long after he had been assassinated, which was 1969. So when I think about Martin Luther King Jr., I think about all of the doors that he opened to people like my parents who are immigrants in order to come to the country, Black immigrants specifically. Obviously, there were other immigrants.
No, because that's important.
It is important. It is important that had it not been for the civil rights movement of the African American people, many, many immigrants, including the Asians who had faced discrimination long before the Black immigrants got here, there would not be what we have today. So when I think of the third Monday, which is what we're celebrating, the third Monday of the month of January, that has been designated and signed into law in 1983 by Ronald Reagan, and did not begin until 1986, right? When I was in existence, right? It was signed into law in 1983 when I was in existence. It was, the first celebration was 1986. And the last time we celebrated with his wife, before she passed was January 2006. So when I think about all of these historic moments that have occurred in my lifetime and not necessarily what occurred prior to my lifetime, I think about all the people that will be leaving this earthly space. A lot of the people that started the charge to get this third Monday of the month, a federal holiday, are no longer with us. John Conyers has passed, right? The senator, the Republican senator, I think it was from Massachusetts, he's also passed. The opposition people, Jesse Helms, he's dead. You know, when you think about all the people that went into so much energy to not only see the day become into fruition, but all the people that spent their energy in making sure that the day did not come into fruition, that generation is leaving, right? And so I think to the future, how will we continue as this Generation X now begins to lead, which is my generation, right? The boomers are leaving and Generation X is coming in. How is it that my generation will continue to maintain the focus on civil rights for people, right? Not just Black people, obviously, but for all people, so that we can live in a more harmonious state, right? Not just in the United States, but throughout the world, because we've become smaller in a sense than where we were in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. Now, even though there's a TikTok ban, people still communicate with each other. There's still Instagram, there's still YouTube, there's still Facebook, and all of those other types of way that people communicate in order to spread information. And so as we become smaller and more aware of world issues, such as what's going on in Haiti, what's going on in the Congo, as we've already mentioned, what's going on between Israel and Palestine, these issues will fall on the laps of my generation. How are we going to respond? Obviously, some have chose to respond with violence, such as Vladimir Putin, right? He has invaded the Ukraine. He did not get an invitation to the 47th or the 60th inaugural presidency. But Zelensky also didn't get an invite, but he was told if he decided he wanted to leave the war that he's fighting for his people and come on through, he can come. But this is the thing that we're in. This is what that generation has left us with. We have to fix that. So when I think of MLK Day, right, as they have unofficially called it, and the observance of that day, I do think about how are the different types of activisms that are going on in the world. We can come together. One thing we can do here in the United States is to focus on our healthcare, because even though Generation X is considered younger, right? We're just now coming up on, we might retire, right? They've increased the age of retirement benefits from the Social Security to come to us, our generation, at 67 years old instead of 62, right? We have to think about our discrimination, right? How is it that we're not able to get universal health care? That type of discrimination from poor to rich, unemployed, employed. Then we also need to think about homelessness, right? How are we collectively going to address that problem? And most importantly, and I think we all can agree, education. With this new presidency that's coming up, one of the things that we're going to be fighting will be the state of our education. Because I know about Martin Luther King. I will know about him until I die. My generation will know about him until I die. But if we begin to chip away, as some of these other, I guess you can call them red states, have started to do, to chip at the history of the United States, to the history of the impact and contributions of so many great people like Martin Luther King Jr., then where will that knowledge to succeed and to come together continue to grow and develop us into an educated community? When we're talking about these tech CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos giving millions of dollars to the inauguration, they're only giving to their bottom line while they're alive. What happens when they're gone, right? If they erode the opportunity for America to grow, then what are we as Americans really saying? What are we as Americans really doing? we need to come together in order to make sure that Martin Luther King Jr. is not forgotten, that other activists and other proud Americans are not forgotten. This is a time for us to really understand what we need to be doing, and we need to be service to others in that way so that we can continue the education.
But you know what? I think that we need to be educated, but we need to become wise.
Mm-hmm.
Because education is great. I agree with you, Attorney Sanat. But if we don't become wise, it's one thing to be smart, it's another thing to be wise. My great-grandmother couldn't read, she couldn't write, but she was wise. She was the one who told me that God is too wise to make a mistake and too kind to be cruel. She told me that as long as what happens to you doesn't happen in you, you're going to be all right, girl. Keep on going. Dr. King warned us about materialism, which sometimes acquiring degrees is part of materialism because we want to flash the bright, shiny things. But I'm so glad that my parents made us go to Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want you to be a nice person, I want you to be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
See, as aggressive as we say Putin is, we are known to be, as Dr. King said, and has not changed, we're the greatest purveyors of violence that the world has ever known. We have. There is a man there are studies that have been committed that have shown that America is responsible for the deaths of 300 million people. Us.
Yeah.
The genocide, that blood is on our hands.
Yes, it is.
Congo's on our hands. Haiti's on our hands.
Right.
So now, and we need to take a page, I think, Leslie, from our Jewish brothers and sisters' notebooks. And I don't want my oppressor to teach my children about me.
Mm-hmm.
We have to tell our own history.
Yes.
We do.
I mean, we've been doing it for years. Look at our oral traditions.
Yep, no,
Even your grandmother is an example of
what I'm saying to you is,
to pass down.
I'm older than you. So I'm a child of the 70s, late 60s and 70s, into the 80s. And we had the equivalent of Hebrew schools. You remember that, Livonia?
Yes.
Where, Leslie, you remember that? I mean, where you had gatherings where we learned about our history, and we were taught our history by our people. You can't let somebody else who does not have an investment in your freedom teach you about your history.
But I think what we're seeing,
Leslie,
is a very deliberate attempt to silence history that does not glorify the image of America that certain people want to have. So a few months ago, in a school in Texas, there's a series of books that are they're kind of like children's versions of the People's Histories, the Howard Zinn history about Native Americans. I cannot believe this actually happened. But the library board, which was not librarians, it was a group of right-wing people who had essentially taken over control of the library collection, insisted on a book about Native American history that talked about the genocide of the Native Americans be reclassified as fiction. Only after a huge outcry from people, not just in that community, but all over the country, that board was forced to step down and they reclassified the back where it was supposed to be. And, as I mentioned earlier, many of these groups that are involved with Project 25 and Project Esther, education, or really miseducation or stopping education, is one of their major goals, because Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote about this in The Message, how it's not so much that they don't want history that makes them uncomfortable, it's that they don't want history that questions their privilege. And it's often been said that when you are privileged, fairness and equality looks like oppression. So you see people claiming that hearing about what really happened to African Americans, what really happened to Asian Americans, what really happened to Native Americans, that's oppression because it's making us feel bad. And it's because it is questioning the right of one group of people to be the group that's in power. And I think in terms of education, that is what we have to fight against.
I think it's a core message. I remember the first time
because everyone, just so that you know, I got 4 minutes left.
Okay, real quickly. The first time that I remember meeting Reverend Jackson, he was coming up to my brand new school We had a brand new building. We had books that were old as dirt. And he was fighting for our books to be updated. The message of education has always been very core to liberation. You have to have a liberated, decolonized mind in order to have a people that's willing to fight. And so I just want to very quickly encourage anybody who's listening, don't just stand by and think that, oh, in Project 2025, they said they're going to come and they're going to do this and the great they only exists when you sit down and don't show up. Get on that school board, show up at those school meetings, fight for your children's education, and then educate yourself. Pick up a different book, watch a different show, do what you need to do. Remember who you are.
And
one of the
2025
other things,
just so that you know, in 2022, it's already been in effect.
yes,
The pushback against educating us happened
yes.
the day that they made the Brown v. Board of Education decision.
Mhm.
These people have been pushing and pushing. What did Reverend
For
Jackson say?
years.
Slave masters never retire.
Right.
Absolutely.
Livonia?
Absolutely. One of the other things I'd like to say, I want to give an action, and it goes back to what everyone has been saying, which makes a lot of sense as it relates to education. We need to document our history, capture our history, write it down, express it, share with all of the generations, capture it from our grandmothers, great grandmothers. And then if it could be in a community center, a school is where you become educated and wise. It doesn't have, it can be 4 walls. And all of us are teachers. And so the action for our listeners and our viewers and ourselves is to capture and help make each generation wiser than the one before.
Amen to that. Ariel?
Yeah, so Livonia, you brought up Anne Frank, and Anne Frank famously said, and I love this quote from her, in spite of everything, I still believe that people are good at heart. So what makes somebody take that risk of hiding Anne Frank? And what makes somebody instead kind of fall in line and turn in their neighbor for being undocumented? And this is what I mean. This is what I meant when I said, like, this is us. This is America. Like, this isn't us and them. This is us. We're in this together. So, Dr. King taught us, and as we go into his day, he taught us that people are not evil, that systems are evil. So we fight systems of oppression, not people. So let us see each other's humanity. And sometimes that means noting, why did somebody vote for Trump? Where are they hurting economically? Where are they hurting? And what system, what capitalism and militarism and materialism, what system, not person, but system is behind that? So how do we fight that system? And how do we make more people who take that risk that folks took to hide Anne Frank, and that we're going to need to do to our undocumented brothers and sisters and our trans brothers and sisters over the next 4 years?
And beyond. Because people are hurting right now, and they were hurting, and Biden is still president. Somehow, Democrats in, Republicans in, Democrats out, Republicans out. Somehow or another, we're still dealing with the same kind of pain.
Well, and
we're still dealing with the same system.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's beyond.
Right.
It's beyond
the parties. Beyond the parties.
Yeah.
It's the system that we're dealing with.
In fact, it reminds me of that movie, The System, where Tyrese Gibson plays an inmate that goes into the system to break apart the system. And part of it includes the dungeon, which is what some of these political lawmakers have done. They've created a dungeon where there's fighting all the time, whether or not you're on the same side, a different side. They just created that division in order to conquer us. But I wanted to say one good thing that Biden has done in order to celebrate today, Martin Luther King Day. Kemba Smith, she was put into prison in 1994 for engaging in activities related to a drug offense. She was given 25 years. President Clinton communed her sentence until she was out by 2000. But President Biden gave her a full pardon. She's also, of course, a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and she credits Delta Sigma Theta's activism,
Yes.
right, for helping her get to a free state, even though the system wronged her. So when we're thinking about systems and we're thinking about our future and the oral traditions that we need to carry on, we also need to carry on this spirit of activism like Kemba Smith, that we have to continue to advocate, continue to let others know this system, as Ariel Gold clearly pointed out, is wrong. And for Anne Frank, a young lady who lost her life to a system, right, to have written down such words that we to this day speak into existence. This is what we need to do. We need to speak into existence the things that we want change: healthcare, homelessness, and education. So I think that's how we should celebrate the day.
Well, let me say this. Teddy Roosevelt said that dissent, to paraphrase him, is the highest form of patriotism. I reserve the right to criticize any president, whether I voted for them or not, because they are my president. Where I see you going wrong, or if I feel that you're in error, it is my obligation. It's just like it's my spiritual obligation to ask my pastor if I think that they are in error. Your imam, your rabbi, you need to do that. Biden's done some good things, and he's done some things with which I didn't agree. I still honor the office, and I appreciate his service. Now we move forward. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? We've got chaos in America. It didn't start with Trump, but it can end here. We've been dealing with this for a long time. Otherwise, Dr. King we would not have needed a prophet named Martin Luther King, who told us we would be here if we did not turn away from militarism and materialism and racism. He said, if you continue to spend more money on the military than you do on programs of spiritual uplift, you're moving to spiritual death. This is where we are. Look at the degradation in the society. Now, what are we going to do about it? And we don't need to blame a person for this. We need to take responsibility ourselves and stop it.
Well, Dr. Martin Luther King did just that. And as his last movement, he actually got up. As you know, he had the flu, and he decided to keep his promise to the sanitation workers. The sanitation workers, the garbage men in the neighborhood, and marched with them. He decided to do what you're suggesting and everybody else is suggesting. He physically, mentally, emotionally, one person says, I am going to go and meet with them, work with them, march with them. Each person that can be a part of the system and really impact it by one initiative for one day. They really can.
And let me say this as we go. That flu that he had, Dr. King was severely depressed.
Yes.
Because he was being threatened. Remember, J. Edgar Hoover tried to kill himself repeatedly. And he saw death literally around every corner. Every time he would hear a pop or a snap, he would jump. When they performed his autopsy, they found that his heart was almost had aged at that of nearly a man nearly 70. He was 39.
Yeah.
So let's look at what we do to each other. Let's think about that. Because even as he was run down, Livonia, I thank you for that. He got up. Because Reverend Bevel and my father did not want him to go to Memphis. Because Memphis didn't feel right. Something was off. And then when the only march that he had that was interrupted by violence, it turns out this was a young man from Morehouse who was a CIA plant. They said, something is off here. We don't like it. But he kept on going. Knowing that our government was going to take him out. He said that when John F. Kennedy was killed, I'm not going to wait until the end of the decade. He knew it. And yet he kept on going.
That's right.
And Frank kept on going. So guess what? The Nazis didn't win. No, they didn't. She's more relevant today than she was almost 100 years ago.
That's right.
Dr. King is more relevant today than he was April 4th, 1968.
And then another person that the United States government contributed to his death, Malcolm X, is
And
more
Malcolm X, and
relevant.
And that's all of them. And we can just keep
They
on
fought.
going.
They fought a good fight.
Jesus is more
Pardon
relevant.
today.
And guess what? Today,
Pardon today. Marcus Garvey was
pardoned today. So,
Yes.
Oh yes, Marcus Garvey too.
Because he should have been pardoned a long time ago. How about that?
How
So
about
I
that?
love you, everybody. You know, when I say I gotta go, you know I gotta go.
Gotta go.
Gotta go.
There you go. But I love you, everybody. Happy MLK Day, everybody. And it's a day of service, but more than that, Dr. King was a servant. It's a day of action.
It's a day of change.
Now it's action, act.
Mhm.
Turn over those tables in the temples.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your temple is, turn them over.
Mm-hmm.
You know things are not right.
Mm-hmm.
Make them right. It is your spiritual responsibility. It is your mandate. It is your duty.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get to work, everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
And dare I say, keep hope alive?
Keep hope alive.
Come on, God bless you.
Absolutely. Every
And
day.
guess what? No. Happy birthday, Ariel. Everybody give her some love. Yay!
Happy birthday, baby.
That's right. 25 again. Okay, we're going to treat you like Aretha Franklin. She was 29 until she was 80.
That's exactly where I am.
Okay. All right. I'm just
32.
Oh, okay. All right. Good for you. I love you. Happy birthday, Ariel. You are our sister beloved. You know we love you. And may
Enjoy
God
every moment.
bless you. Oh, enjoy every moment. And come on, you know what? My father said, if you don't like birthdays, try missing one. So, girl, let's keep on going. Come on. Yeah, let's keep on going. That's right. My cake will collapse next year, and I'm good with that. How about that? All them candles. Oh, I love you, everybody. God bless you.